Welcome back again to the Fedrix lens. Aang's return was supposed to feel different. It was supposed to feel clean, earned, deliberate, not because the character needed another introduction, but because Aang's history on film already carried damage. Back in 2010, The Last Airbender arrived with everything a major adaptation was supposed to have: a beloved source, a major studio, a recognizable director, and a fan base that had already proven how much it cared. The movie still earned about $319.7 million worldwide, but the deeper story of that film was not commercial success. It was trust collapse. Its Metascore fell to 20, and it became one of the most infamous failed adaptations of its era. That matters because the first wound was not just that the movie was disliked. The first wound was that Aang's name entered film history attached to disappointment. For a lot of viewers, that 2010 movie did not simply miss the mark. It damaged belief in what an Aang movie could even be. So when Nickelodeon founded Avatar Studios in 2021, led by original co-creators Michael Dante DiMartino and Brian Konietzko, that move meant more than simple franchise expansion. It looked like an attempt to rebuild authority around the world of Avatar from the inside. The upcoming film, Avatar, Aang, The Last Airbender, became part of that restoration logic. It was not just another project. It was the first Aang feature in the Avatar Studios era. That is what makes the leak feel bigger than a normal leak story. Because this movie was already carrying extra weight. It was carrying the burden of return, the burden of repair, the burden of proving that Aang on film could finally happen without reopening the old embarrassment from 2010. And then the breach happened. Reports say the trouble started around April 12, 2026, when clips from the upcoming movie began circulating online after claims that the full film had been accidentally sent out. Those early clips were reportedly struck with DMCA takedowns, and by April 13 to 14, full non-watermarked copies were said to be spreading across the internet. Paramount and Nickelodeon had not publicly confirmed a hack in the coverage, but multiple outlets treated the leak as authentic, serious, and damaging. The movie is still scheduled for October 9, 2026 on Paramount+. That alone would already be bad. But what makes this leak unusually damaging is that it did not hit a stable movie rollout. It hit a fragile one. The new film had already gone through release date changes, title turbulence, and a highly controversial release shift away from theaters to Paramount+. Coverage around the leak notes that this release decision had already angered part of the fandom before any breach ever happened. So when the footage began spreading, it landed inside an atmosphere that was already tense, already skeptical, and already divided. That is where the deeper connection between the two Aang movies begins to come into view. The first movie was damaged by translation failure. The second may be damaged by custody failure. The 2010 film reached theaters, but the adaptation itself broke trust. The 2026 film may reach release, but the path to release has already been broken by disorder. Different mechanisms. Same kind of scar. In both cases, Aang's movie legacy is being shaped by damage before the film can settle into a clean public life. That is what makes this leak more than a spoiler event. It is not only about people seeing scenes early. It is about the way a comeback enters the world. A comeback is supposed to arrive with framing, with official anticipation, with a sense of collective beginning. This film was supposed to be the controlled return of Aang in a new era, older character designs, a new voice cast, a new institutional home under Avatar Studios, and a fresh chance to define what Aang on film now means. Instead, the movie entered public conversation through unofficial uploads, takedowns, piracy debates, and fan infighting. That changes the emotional atmosphere around the whole release. By the time October 9, 2026 arrives, The movie may not be greeted simply as the new Aang film. It may be greeted as the movie that leaked. And that is a brutal thing for any film, but it is especially brutal for one that was already carrying the burden of healing an older movie legacy. The fan split makes that even worse. Wired reported that some fans argued Paramount deserved the fallout. Their anger centered on decisions including the cancellation of a theatrical release and creative choices, such as recasting voice actors to better align with characters' ethnic backgrounds. In that reading, the leak became tangled up with resentment toward the people managing the franchise. But there is another side to the story, and it is the side that makes the whole situation darker. The people most directly hurt by the leak are not the executives first. They are the artists. Animator Julia Skoll publicly criticized fans choosing to pirate the leaked movie, calling that behavior incredibly disrespectful, while animator Tom Barkle warned that how audiences support this film could affect future jobs and future Avatar projects. That is a major shift in perspective, because once the story moves from fans versus studio to piracy harms the people who made it, the whole emotional logic changes. That is the hidden fracture underneath the leak. Some fans are reading the breach as blowback against corporate mishandling. But the visible wound lands on animators, staff, rollout momentum, and the symbolic shape of the comeback itself. Wired's reporting captures that split clearly. One side frames the fallout as deserved. The other sees it as entitlement consuming the very work the fandom claims to care about. And once that happens, the story stops being only about security. It becomes a story about stewardship. Who is actually protecting Avatar now? The company, the creators, the production team, the fans, or no one once anger and access take over? That question connects directly back to the first movie. Because the first wound in Aang's movie history was also a stewardship problem. It was not just that the 2010 movie existed. It was that it carried the Avatar name into film form. Without convincing people, it had protected what mattered most about the world. Now the new movie faces a different stewardship problem. This time, the concern is not whether the adaptation misunderstood the canon. It is whether the comeback was protected well enough to arrive intact at all. That is why these two movies belong in the same story. The first showed that Aang on film could be damaged by bad translation. The second shows that Aang on film can be damaged before official release even begins. One failure happens inside the movie. The other happens around the movie. But for the audience, the effect can start to feel eerily similar. Another Aang movie. Another problem, another clean return interrupted. And that may be the real reason this leak feels so heavy. Not because it is the biggest movie leak in history. Not because piracy is new. And not because fandom outrage is unusual. It feels heavy because it landed on a franchise that was already trying to repair one broken chapter of Aang's film life. This movie was supposed to arrive as proof that the damage from 2010 was not final. Instead, before release even arrives, the conversation is already bending toward breach, piracy, artist frustration, corporate backlash, and lost control of the moment. So yes, Paramount may have mishandled the rollout. Yes, fans have real reasons to be frustrated. And yes, release choices can shape how much goodwill a movie carries before launch. But none of that changes the deeper pattern. Aang's first movie was hurt by adaptation damage. The next one may be hurt by breach damage. And when the same character's movie history keeps getting marked by failure before stability, that stops looking like random bad luck. It starts to look like a legacy that still has not fully healed. So the question surrounding this leak is no longer just whether the footage was real, or whether the studio deserved backlash, or whether the movie can still succeed when October arrives. The deeper question is this: can Aang finally have a movie that enters the world without being damaged first? Because that may be the real story connecting 2010 to 2026. The first movie broke trust after release. The new one risks losing trust before release. And that is why this leak feels bigger than a leak. It feels like the reopening of an old wound. If this video made you see the world a little differently, go ahead and smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. Let me know down below, what should I cover next? I appreciate you all so much. Catch you in the next video. Look closer, see further, decide for yourself.